Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Lincoln-Goldfinch here with you on Tuesdays in English to discuss all things immigration. We're talking about your immigration news headlines, what the heck is going on. I'm going to help you interpret some of this. I'm here to answer your live questions, and then we will end with an action tip. Oh, I need my mic so you can hear me. That helps, doesn't it? Ta-da! There we go. And then I'll give you an action tip, more ways that you can get involved civically. Do you know what today is? Today is January 20th. It has been exactly 1 year since the inauguration of the second term of Donald Trump. And I know I don't have to repeat to you how dire things are, how swiftly we have fallen, both domestically and internationally on the world stage, as Trump writes ridiculous, absurd letters about not getting the Nobel Peace Prize, about taking over Greenland, about, pulling out of NATO. It's really, really bad. It's really bad. It's really embarrassing. The only thing that I take solace in is that it does appear to me that on the international stage, most countries understand that Donald Trump doesn't represent all Americans, that there's a serious division in this country, and that, frankly, a majority of us are not in support of the president's actions. Perhaps that will help us if things get violent internationally. I don't know. But also domestically, I mean, if you pause and reflect, it's like, the old adage about lobsters in a boiling pot. A year ago, Donald Trump was telling us still that they were only going to go after the worst of the worst, that nobody else had anything to worry about, right? That the only people who had anything to worry about were the rapists and the drug dealers and the murderers. And the rest of us were fine, nothing to worry about. Remember that? Do you remember that? And now we're seeing videos of 6-month-old babies going to the hospital because they've had a flashbang detonate the airbag under their cars. And 6-year-old little girls wandering the streets because the ICE Gestapo has taken their daddy. And despite his pleas for help with his daughter who was left alone, they laughed in his face. This little 6-year-old daughter was wandering the streets going, "Where's my puppy?" Because her mom was at work and her dad was watching her. And they just pulled him. They didn't care. The story after story after story, Kristi Noem telling all of us we need to all be prepared to prove our U.S. citizenship on a moment's notice if we are within the vicinity of an ICE action. Do you understand how far that is from we're just going after the worst of the worst to any U.S. citizen on the street at any point in time is going to have to show ID? We have to note this descent. Just this morning on one of my Instagram videos, a U.S. citizen lady wrote, "I don't really understand what the problem is. Like, why can't we just carry our IDs on us? What the heck? Are you not alive? I mean, do you not see like this Hmong man, U.S. citizen Hmong man pulled from his home in 9-degree weather in his boxer shorts after they stuck a gun in his daughter-in-law's face, drove him around for an hour without clothing, realized they didn't have anything to charge him with and brought him back home? What is happening? This is the United States of America. Congress, get your shit together. I think, we know Donald Trump is nuts. We know Stephen Miller is evil. We know Kristi Noem and Carolyn Levitt and all these people are just sycophant, weirdo liars. But Republicans in Congress, you actually have been elected by people. You weren't some Stephen Miller just put into place because Donald Trump likes how evil you are. You serve the people of your state, the farmers, the business owners, the people who are not okay with this. And we have got to pressure our Republican legislators and lawmakers to stand up to this tyranny. Democrats, do more. Republicans, do something. Something. It's bad out there. And marking this day, this, year into this administration, it's almost like it takes your breath away. how bad it is. And if you're one of those people that somehow you're watching this show, but you're not, watching the news, it's bad. It's really bad. And time has come for complacency and not watching the news and not paying attention. Like, we don't get to do that anymore. Nobody gets to do that anymore. Not if you want this country and everything that we stand for to survive. So January 20th, y'all. Can we even believe it? I'm going to talk about some of the news. I'm trying to think if there's anything, we all know what's going on in Minnesota. Let's talk locally. I'm going to a rally this afternoon at City Hall. We're going to be talking about Austin policy. Let's talk locally. What's happening locally? I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory because there's a lot of notes about APD is going to have a policy where they can't prohibit their officers from cooperating with ICE. And everybody's like, F you, APD, which I understand on its face, it looks like this is an APD problem. What I want to say is we got to back up a little bit and understand what's happening, because the Republicans in the state legislature in 2017 passed a law called SB 4, which prohibits local law enforcement agencies from prohibiting cooperation with ICE. So APD, sheriffs, counties, cities, none of them can have written stated policies telling people within their departments not to communicate or cooperate with ICE. Otherwise, they could be fined and pulled from office. So what we're seeing is APD grappling with the legislature's heavy-handed anti-immigration illegal, unconstitutional legislation. Layer on top of that last year, the Trump administration put almost 1 million administrative warrants into what's called the NCIC database. Okay, so this is I don't know what it stands for, National Crime something. Okay, so this is the database that whenever a law enforcement officer pulls someone over or whatever, they run a background on somebody, they're using this NCIC database. Somebody's at my door and my dogs are not having it. Go see who it is. Go see who it is. Bye. Go. They run a hit in the database. And if somebody has a judicial warrant signed by a judge, historically, it'll show up and you have a warrant for your arrest and you get taken in by this officer who may have just pulled you over for a traffic stop. But let me tell you about a judicial warrant and the process. A law enforcement agency has to go before a judge and say, Your Honor, here's the evidence. We believe Lincoln-Goldfinch has committed this crime and here is our evidence and we'd like you to issue us a warrant. And an independent judge reviews the evidence and says, okay, this is enough for me to issue a warrant, which allows you to take this person's liberty away. It allows you to storm into their home. It allows you to go grab them off the streets. An independent judge has reviewed it and made that decision. That's how warrants get into the NCIC. But last year, the Trump administration just decided that everybody that they're looking for gets an administrative warrant, not reviewed by a judge, and that all those administrative warrants get dumped into the NCIC database. And that has created a bit of chaos and confusion within law enforcement agencies because they're not used to getting these hits. They're used to, oh shit, I got a hit. I got to take this person in. This person has a warrant, right? But administrative warrants, I heard recently that the administrative warrants that are being loaded by ICE are immigrants who have failed to register under the registry requirement, which is like everybody. So obviously not criminals, no judicial review, no independent oversight. Law enforcement agencies are getting all these hits. So what APD is grappling with is this SB 4 telling them they have to cooperate with ICE, plus all these administrative warrants mucking up their criminal database, which it doesn't take a genius to understand how this might actually harm public safety, right? When the warrants within the warrant system aren't actually warrants, of the actual people who have committed actual crimes. I mean, 2 brain cells, just rub them together. Now what's happening is APD is saying, we can't tell our officers not to comply. But here's a message for APD, other law enforcement agencies in Texas. I know you guys know this. I know you're talking to lawyers. An administrative warrant is not permission to detain someone under the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. It is actually a violation of constitutional law to detain someone on an administrative warrant. And guess what? Constitutional law trumps SB 4. Okay, so APD, everybody else, when you're making these policies, you do tell your officers you may not detain on an administrative warrant. Maybe you can't tell them that they can't call ICE, but they got to let the person go before they do it. So that's what's happening in Texas, and that's why I'm going to the rally. I'm going to try and explain, distill all of that into 3 minutes, into a 3-minute rally speech. So you'll see me there. Let's talk about some other more in the weeds headlines. We've got a lawsuit filed in California, but it should apply everywhere. It's the plaintiffs in the suit were spouses of H-1B visa workers, but the lawsuit is against the end of the automatic extension of work permits. You guys remember? You might remember that around the fall there was a new change where work permits that were being automatically extended when people filed for extensions just ended like that. There was no, federal rulemaking procedure followed, the notice and comment period. It just was abrupt and applied immediately. And so there's a lawsuit about that. I hope that it succeeds, because that's one of these. I mean, we're so busy talking about the Gestapo, there's little things behind the scenes that are really impacting people. And this is one of those things. Let's talk about some polls. We have a poll conducted by CNN and The Economist, or YouGov poll. 56% called the shooting of Renee Good as an inappropriate use of force. What the rest of you, what the hell? And that 51% that it also reflects bigger problems with the way that ICE is operating. So, and Rachel Maddow says the vast majority of Americans are familiar with what transpired in Minneapolis, and by a 20-point margin, people saw the shooting as unjustified, 50% versus 30%. I also read recently that Heather Cox Richardson reported, I can't find it, I'm looking for it. If anybody knows where it is, send it to me, where she said that even with the worst, most authoritarian regimes, you never see public opinion for them fall below 25%. So when you're getting down to in the 30s, it's actually about as low as it gets. So we have to keep that in mind. 1 in 4 people, I guess, is always crazy. The same survey found that 56% of majority of Americans believe that both state and federal officials should be responsible for investigating the shooting, of course, which is the opposite of the Trump administration's position. Of course, they've cut out the state law enforcement agencies from investigating. Next, Scripps News has reported that Congress is weighing reforms over ICE that could require agents to wear body cameras, have ID, and limit them from wearing masks. You think? Not enough, Congress. Go ahead and pass that, and then you got some other work to do. And then another 60 Minutes report was pulled. We're not hearing about this one as much. This was a report on the deportations under Trump, and it was pulled Sunday, so 2 nights ago. And the correspondent who prepared it, Sharon Alfonsi, had prepared and did a bunch of interviews, and 60 Minutes put in statements from the White House and DHS that she didn't include in the package, and then they pulled it. So real clear that the administration got their fingers in 60 Minutes reportings. Also, I think it was CBS reported really irresponsibly that the shooter of Renee Good, Jonathan Ross, had gone to the hospital for internal bleeding. And when I saw that, I was like, that's BS. That was my immediate response. And then I had a thought where I was like, well, it's CBS. Guess what? There was internal conflict because that was reported without fact checking, without just regular basic rules of journalism. And wouldn't you know, it turned out to be a lie. He did not go to the hospital per the reports on the incident, the written reports from the incident. So there you have the news. It's dire. I'm sorry. Okay, Chispa de Bomba, thank you for being here with me again. Good morning. For my partner, formerly under humanitarian parole from Cuba, the EAD application is now beyond the 180 days. You're at 8 or 9 months. Is it even worth trying to expedite with a congressman? Well, no, I don't think so, because they revoked that program. So they're not going to approve a work permit under that program. So we need to figure out what else. Have you guys applied for a green card based on marriage? Do you have asylum pending? DM me. I know you're here a lot with me in the lives, and I really appreciate that. Perhaps it's time we have a consultation if we haven't already. Send me a DM and we'll schedule something. Reminder to everybody, we're still doing free consultations. I don't foresee an end to that as long as all of this is going on. We represent people all over the United States. We are making our legal advice and consultations free for the immigrant community. We have offices based in Austin. We are virtual, so we can do Zoom consultations around the country, and we offer appointments on the weekends. So if you need an appointment, just reach out. We're here for you. We also have a program called Luz En El Camino, or the Peace of Mind program. This is a program specifically for people who are undocumented but don't have a way to get legal status, because there's a lot of people like that right now. And it's really important to have a relationship with a lawyer or a law firm so that they can help you immediately should someone get detained. Because, I mean, just think about it. You know, your spouse is walking on the street, they get pulled off the street by the Gestapo, and somebody finds their truck, and then you find that they're detained, and you've got to find them, make sure that they haven't signed anything, figure out if they're going to be put in removal proceedings, collect all their documents, figure out what's going on with their case procedurally, figure out what they want to do and the family wants to do, prepare a bond application, communicate with ICE that they have a lawyer. And all of this has to occur as soon as possible. Needless to say, it is a scramble. It's a scramble. So if you just come forward before an event and consult with a lawyer, form a relationship, give them your documents, tell them what you want in case you get detained, sign a thing that says they are your lawyer so that they can work for you if you get detained. All of that's already done. That's the thing about the Peace of Mind program. You get all that work done so that if you get detained, it's like, okay, our client so-and-so got picked up. Let's start talking to ICE. Let's start filing the bond application. Like all of that it's just occurs, you know? Do you understand? I'm sure you understand the difference. Oh, okay, I got it. Chispa de Bomba, you submitted okay, good. You submitted the work permit with the adjustment, and you applied 8 to 9 months ago. Did you do fingerprints yet? Usually it comes pretty quick after fingerprints. We've actually been seeing, in some cases, the green cards, believe it or not, are being processed so quickly that they come before the work permit. So we might get an interview before you ever get a work permit. I'm not stressed about that time frame. It's not from the date of application. It's from the date. Well, and there's no like specific processing time, but from the date you do the fingerprints, it's usually another 3 to 6 months after that right now. You had your consult yesterday, Mariah. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear it. I hope it went well and it was helpful. Pablo, I'm sorry I skipped you. DACA news, not yet. I'm in the no news is good news camp on the DACA stuff. We don't really want Judge Hainan to issue a ruling on DACA because right now in Texas, we're still getting work permits. They're not processing DACA initials, but no news. Biometrics done August 2025. Okay. Yes, I'm not worried. No stress. But yes, I would go ahead and have a congressman submit an inquiry on your behalf. I don't know who your congressman is, whether they do that kind of thing, but it doesn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt. Okay, I've lived in the U.S. for more than 10 years. I have a minor U.S. citizen child, and I have experienced domestic violence, psychological domestic violence. By the way, that's a type of domestic violence for purposes of a VAWA case, psychological. I would like to know if my case might qualify for humanitarian or legal options and whether I could receive an initial consultation. Yeah, for sure. We are available, free consultations. We know how to work with people who are in abusive situations. We know, to ask you, can we call you? Can we text you? Can we send mail to your house? What time of the day can we communicate with you? All of that stuff. We can work with you on the ways that you need to work with us in order to stay safe. And if you are, what I don't know is if your abuser is a U.S. citizen or not. You don't say here. And to protect your privacy, go ahead and just DM me for a consultation. But yeah, there are things we can do for people who are experiencing violence. And that's something I want everybody to know. If you're an immigrant and you're in an abusive relationship, you know what the first thing the abuser does? They threaten immigration stuff against you. It's like 95% of my cases have that element. They always do it. They love it. It gives them the power and the control, right? So if you're an immigrant in a relationship with a U.S. citizen or permanent resident who threatens anything about immigration on you, that is a flag to you that you probably qualify for a legal status without their knowledge or their help. And you should reach out to my law firm and we can help you explore that confidentially, quietly, and privately. Carlos Jimenez. Oh, right. Yeah. That doesn't mean though that he won't. I hate to say this out loud. I'm not even going to say his name because I don't want to give him credit. I had a Republican senator unstick one of my cases a couple of weeks ago. He doesn't get named because he doesn't get the credit. But sometimes if you can get a Republican to do something, then they'll be like, oh, so-and-so's inquiring. Maybe we should pay attention to this one. So worth an ask, especially if like the petitioner is a veteran or, you can call and be like, look, I voted for you. I don't know, whatever. And I love my immigrant spouse and I need your help. So try that angle, see how it goes. I hate this question. Can ICE arrest me even if I have a pending immigration case? There is a difference between can they and will they. We have to differentiate that now. That's the world that we're living in. So can they? They shouldn't. If you have a pending immigration case, depending on what type of case it is, usually, historically, legally, practically, you are protected. It doesn't make any sense to detain someone who has a legal immigration case. Will they detain you? Obviously, yes. They will detain U.S. citizens. They will detain green card holders. They will detain people who have a legal process pending. So what I would say is, we all need to be thoughtful about how we're going to protect ourselves out there on the streets. And as a U.S. citizen, you have a choice. Am I going to resist or am I going to comply? And resistance, I would resist as a U.S. citizen because I'm a lawyer. I choose that form of resistance. I have a husband at home who can take care of the children if I get detained or arrested. I'm willing to do that, I think. I mean, in the moment, I suppose things are different. Some U.S. citizens are like, I'm a single mom. I'm going to carry my passport on me. Totally respect and understand that decision. If you have a case, if you're an immigrant, number one, if you qualify for legal status, apply for it. This is one thing that I see a lot of immigrants saying, like, I've qualified for a green card or VAWA or whatever, and I'm not going to apply for it because I don't want to get on their radar. You know what? We're all on their radar. I mean, this is the era of surveillance. They have license plate readers on most corners, on every cop car. They're tracking our cell phones. They're tracking our social media. We don't live in a world where we're not on some list already anymore. And so understand that, protect yourself by going after legal status. And then if you're in legal, if you have a work permit, if you have a green card, carry that on you at all time. If you have a legal case pending, but you're not there yet, then talk to your lawyer about what documents should I have on me. Letter of representation, maybe an approval notice of something, and then memorize an emergency phone number to call if you get detained. Nessa, after you submit the paperwork for bond, how long does it usually take them to respond with a court date? Those happen really pretty quickly. Those happen within a week or two, usually. I mean, it's a lot's in the hands of the court, and there are regulations around that. It's pretty quick. And then there's always habeas. For people who aren't getting bonds, you can go to federal court. That costs more money, takes another 4 to 6 weeks. A lot of times by the time we could do a habeas for somebody, they want to go. They don't want to keep fighting because it's really hard in detention. There was another death in ICE custody yesterday. It was reported as a suicide. Of course, we don't believe anything they say, but it's bad in there. It's bad. Y'all remind me when things are better and we get to have good news videos, how much fun we're having. Let's remind each other. It will come. We've been here before. That you just look at U.S. history. This has all happened in the past, and we'll get on the other side of it, assuming we have elections. That's an important thing. My husband has a U.S. citizen daughter who currently has a payment plan with the IRS. Is it true that she cannot start a family petition for her father until her tax debt is fully paid? No, she can definitely petition for her father, even though she has a tax debt. She has to earn enough money to sponsor him, but she can petition for him. I entered the United States without inspection, but I am married to a U.S. citizen. Do I have any options to adjust my status? So adjusting status is a technical term. That means you get legal status inside the country. You don't have to leave. So in order to adjust your status, if you're married to a U.S. citizen, there's 3 ways to do it. Okay. Number one, you entered the country legally, which you did not. Okay. Number 2, your spouse or an immediate relative has served in the armed forces, in which case you could do military parole in place. Number 3, if you've been subjected to cruelty in the marriage and you actually file a VAWA case instead of a family petition. And then number 4 is if you got petitioned by somebody in your family before April 30th of 2001. Okay, so enter legally, or husband served in the military, or you're a victim of violence, or you were petitioned before 2001. That's how you adjust status. If none of those things apply and you enter it without inspection, then you have to do the consular process, which means I-130 waiver, appointment outside the country. I would say go ahead and start the consular process, like do the I-130, do the waiver, even if you don't plan to leave the country, like while Trump's the president and you're like, I'm not going to the consulate while this is, still do the first 2 steps, because each of those steps all told takes about 1.5 years each. So we're talking like 3 years just to get you to the point of the consular process. And number 1, hopefully Trump won't be the president 3 years from now. Number 2, if you were to get detained or deported, at least you've already begun the process, so your wait outside isn't as long. Does all that make sense? Okay, this is a Spanish one. I'll repeat in English. Tengo permiso y social. Estoy esperando la visa. Corro algún peligro si me detienen. Tengo miedo. Permiso es bueno, porque eso quiere decir que estás protegida, pero debes llevar el permiso siempre contigo y tener una licencia vigente en su cartera siempre. No debes estar detenida por tener ese permiso, pero debes tener un plan. Una cosa buena es que si esté deportada, podrías venir legalmente cuando aprueben la visa, pero no sé si el permiso es por el bona fide o por la aprobación de su caso, pero parece a mí que estás protegida. Okay, I'm going to switch to English. My parent got an RFE for a U visa. I'm afraid denial will come after. What can I do? Focus on the RFE. Hit that RFE response hard. Hire a lawyer if you can. Get them everything they ask for and more. Don't give up just because you get an RFE. I don't know what it's for. We get a lot of RFEs and we overcome them. More often than not, we overcome RFEs. Which is a request for more evidence in a case. It does not mean a denial is coming. So I don't know what it's about. I don't, if we look at the RFE, we could tell you whether we think we can overcome it. But always try. And then we can talk about a backup plan in a consultation. Nessa, I'm a resident. Can they still detain me? And how can I protect my children in case of ICE detention? Okay, so they should not. I'm so sorry we're even having this conversation. You should not be detained as a lawful permanent resident, assuming you don't have a criminal history or some criminal warrant. Okay, I'm just going to assume that. You want to make sure your green card is valid, up to date, and you have a valid driver's license, okay, that's not expired. So keep those two documents on you at all times. If you get stopped by police or ICE, you should say, I'm a permanent resident. Here's my card. You should do that, especially because you've got kiddos and you don't want to be in the position of like getting detained because you're refusing to show your documents. And then your kiddos, I don't know if you're married or what your spouse's legal status is, but let's assume you have a spouse who has legal status. You guys should always be in communication, be close by, like by that case of the guy who was watching his daughter, and his wife was at work and he was taken and the daughter was left alone. Now, I don't know the story. I don't know if he had a criminal history. I don't know if he was undocumented. So we shouldn't just assume that's going to happen across the board, but we will use that as a guide to us. And we will say when an immigrant is with a child, we need to have spouse on standby so that when you're apart, you always, and if it's not your spouse, then it's your neighbor or your sister or whoever you've identified as your caregiver for the children who can be right there and help the kids. And then, maybe get a smartwatch that allows you to make a phone call so that if you don't have your phone on you and you get detained, you immediately just call that person on your smartwatch and they know when they get a call from you, it means drop everything and come over. These are ways that we can plan for emergencies in these times, in these crazy, crazy, insane, unbelievable times that we're living in. Okay, so Cari, tienes el permiso de trabajo C14. ¿Qué va a pasar si me para la policía? ¿Todavía está vigente? Debemos consultar directamente sobre su estatus y la estrategia. Okay. I'm going to answer one more question, and then if anybody has another question, go ahead and send it in, and I will answer it, and then we'll move to our action item. My father traveled to Mexico 2 months ago. He's 90. His permanent resident card expires in May. Does he need to be physically present in the U.S. to renew his residency? Yeah, he does. He does need to be here to renew his residency. Okay. As always, we do action items because we need to feel like we're making a difference, right? We can't just watch all of this go down in flames. So with that being said, this Saturday, I am inviting you from 12 to 3 p.m. to come and canvass with me and a team of volunteers for my campaign for HD50. I'm going to share something with you guys that's been a little bit frustrating for me on the campaign trail. I'm an immigration lawyer. I'm all about immigration. It's what I talk about. I have had a number of people within the Democratic Party or, players within the party tell me that I shouldn't talk about immigration so much, that immigration isn't the top issue of the district, and that we shouldn't focus so much on it. And y'all, immigrants are the bellwether. The way that we are treating our immigrants is the way that we will all be treated tomorrow and the day after and the day after. And I don't like hearing that from Democrats, that we shouldn't be talking about immigration so much. That makes me uneasy. And I'm not going to do it. And who knows, what the outcome of the election will be because of that. But I'm not going to stop talking about immigration just so I can get elected. That's not going to happen. We are going to be talking about immigration. And if you are with me on this, I need your support because I'm up against a machine that doesn't want me to talk about immigration. So come with me. This is your action item. If you care about all this stuff and you're in the Austin area, come to Pfluger Park on Saturday from 12 to 3. And we're going to go out and we're going to knock on doors and we're going to talk about immigration. So that's your action item. And it is a somber day, January 20th. So also an action item is do a little self-care today, something that makes you feel good and happy because it's been a year. But I appreciate all of you being here with me in our activism and our work together. And I will see you on Thursday in Espanol. Bye-bye. Oh, and we're not going to forget about the Epstein files.